Hey guys, today's video is going to be a movie review. I watched the new Dungeons & Dragons movie, basically on opening night. There was obviously previews and everything, but I watched it on the first day that it came out, and I have some thoughts. So, let's talk about it a little bit. Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves is a pretty decent movie. One cannot help but subconsciously compare it with the previous attempts at a Dungeons & Dragons movie. This is the one that comes out on top, certainly. Honor Among Thieves is actually set in an existing Dungeons & Dragons world, in Faerun, and it does a reasonably good job of setting up Faerun for future goes around, I guess. There's all sorts of stuff that they can really play around with in that, and the way that they handled things fairly competently. I would say that the film was competently made. It was pretty entertaining. It definitely didn't take itself too seriously. It was very determined to not take itself seriously in some ways, and I think that worked. It really set a good tone for itself. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little disappointed that they didn't do a little bit more meta-y stuff. That could have been funny, but also it could have detracted in some ways, but probably no more than they were already doing, so swings and roundabouts. I think that there's a lot of good stuff in this film. This is my first actual exposure to Jean-René Page, I think is his name. The guy who played the Paladin, he was very good, and I really liked the take on that. There's some really interesting exploration of characters. There's some bits that I'm like screaming at the screen in my head going, why are you not just talking about stuff before it gets to be the big dramatic issue? But that's just the way that things are. I was a little bit disappointed that they decided to do a fridging immediately in literally the first couple of minutes. It was a little unnecessary. They fridged the wife. Was it necessary? Was it useful? Ish. It kind of does inform things, but also did I suppose it's the way a lot of people do their first D&D character, I guess. I want to take a moment to meme on Chris Pine's character's name. Edgin, that pronunciation is the only thing saving this from being completely memed on, because the way that you spell it, E-D-G-I-N, is Edgin. He's edging us all. They're edging us. I just couldn't get that out of my head. They could have chosen a different name, and it would have been not an issue. But this one, oh dear. There is a lot of good in this movie, and I think that it's hopefully going to lead to more explorations of other stuff. I think the Faerun is not the world that I prefer to use. Most people tend to use homebrew, but default to Faerun as their base when they don't use homebrew. I tend to go for Eberron more than Faerun, so that's my 2 bits. Eberron or Greyhawk, that's the 2 that I would default to. It's interesting that they decided to go with that, but it does set things up, and I suspect that they may be planning a cinematic universe of their own. We will see whether things go anywhere with it, but I'd be interested to see where they take it, and whether they do some more playing around with stuff. I think that they kind of need to keep this tone, though, if they're going to do much. And I think it's a similar concept in terms of it all to the whole thing with She-Hulk, but this is getting a lot less flack Can't imagine why. Anyway, I think I've spewed enough thoughts about the D&D movie into the world now. That's what I thought. Tell me in the comments what you thought. I'd love to know, so tell me down there. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you remember to like and share it and subscribe to my channel. Click on the thumbnails over there to see other videos by me, click on the link in the description down below to join my Discord, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.